What's up, everybody? We are back with episode number 200, 264.
Really?
264, and this is our third week in a row that we've had a guest on the show, and this week we have Katon DePena of HIRAX, among others, which we will get into shortly. So welcome, Katon. Am I saying that name? Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah, man, you're nailing it. It's Katon.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny because when we tour, everybody pronounces it different. Like we'll play South America. Most of the shows, people say Keaton or Keaton.
Katon.
So it's always a little different, but you're doing it correct for the U.S.
Right on. We got lots of people joining in already.
Right on.
HIRAX in the house, so the numbers are going up. But we also have with us, as usual, we got down below me, we got Steve, Harmless Rebel down there. And of course, the one and the only Carcass John.
Yeah.
And we do not have with us Rob today or Kevin. So I don't know where Kevin is. I thought he was going to be here, but no worries. We've got plenty of people and plenty to talk about. So before we get into talking with Katon, we want to do our quick shout outs. And I wanted to show you a couple things that I was listening to today that both of them kind of blew me away. So first of all, they're both test pressings and they're coming out soon, but this is Morbid Angel's Elude, Divinum, Insanus, the industrial remixes. So I know everybody hates that album, but everybody hates that album.
Not everybody. So let's just time out.
Okay, most people hate that album.
Everybody but the Metal Queen hates the album.
She's a super industrial person, and we can go on, and she knows Evil Dave pretty well, and so it's a mixed bag in our house. So we'll have to just keep the peace by saying not everybody hates it.
That's kind of like their Lulu.
Yeah, but this is a 4 LP box set coming out. And this is freaking amazing. I mean, if you like industrial metal, that is. I mean, if you're not into the, the industrial with all the noises and the loops and all that kind of fun stuff they put into industrial, but I was kind of blown away because I mean, I have the Elude, Divinum, Insanus album, and I'd never listened to it because it didn't really do much for me. But this is freaking amazing. I was really kind of shocked. But you got to like bands like Circle of Dust and 9 Inch Nails and that kind of stuff. If you get into this, but.
He left Morbid Angel because his wife at the time was Jen of the Jenna Tortures. And so they're super industrial and, they toured with all 9 Inch Nails and all those types of bands. So naturally he would probably gravitate somewhat to that, but I don't hate it. I mean, it's not Altars of Madness or what are those things, but I hate is an awfully strong word, but I'll wait for the remixes and we'll probably order them.
How many bands went that direction too in the early to mid 90s? A lot of bands went the industrial route and tried it out for an album or two, and it didn't work for pretty much any of them. But
not to get too far off the beaten path, not everyone hates it, but there's a majority of elitist metalheads that hate that record. Yes, correct.
Yep.
That word.
So anyhow, I was expecting
hate. That word hate's getting used a lot.
Yeah. But it's people generally. It's like you said. It's they're Saint Anger or they're Lulu, whatever you want to call it, and I don't think it's as bad as either one of those pieces of crap. But I didn't say that out loud, did I?
This show's
you
already
did,
going
and I
off the
agree with
rails.
you. But let's keep moving.
Anyhow, and then this is another one, but this is, there's no cover obviously, but this is Rex Carroll, and you might know Rex Carroll is the guitar shredder who plays in Fierce Heart, as well as he was in that Christian band that kind of sounded like rap back in the day called White Cross. But he's got this new Southern rock blues album called That Was Then, This Is Now, or something like that. And I was kind of expecting it to just be but I was blown away. I mean, he definitely channeled his inner Billy Gibbons and mixed it with Eddie Van Halen and put out something that was pretty dang unique. Very ZZ Top-ish, but with some shred guitar solos and stuff like that. So anyhow, I'm looking forward. First time I've heard it in decades, because it is a reissue, but he also recorded some new songs for the album too. So I was blown away. Really good album from both of them. So there you go. That's my
I don't think I've talked about it on here. I know me and Scott have talked about it, but White Cross was the first heavy metal show that I went to, and like had to be 87, and it was a pizza place. Yeah, it was a pizza place in Phoenix called Pistol Pete's. It was kind of like
Pistol Pete's. I remember that place.
Yeah. So we went there for the show, and the reason we went is because it was $7 for the metal show, and then all you could eat pizza, and still one of my favorite memories.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bow out, and John, you go ahead and do your intros, and then do yours. I lost my sound. I'll just have to fix it. Take me a second. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're out. You guys are out.
Sounded pretty good to me.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
I don't think he can hear us. But anyway,
I can totally hear you guys. This is obviously live.
Yes, it is, and it's production value, Katon. That's what we call it, because we're not as pro at this as you are at what you do. So, but anyway, Steve, you got anything else? Because I got a couple of shout outs. I had a huge mail day today for some strange reason.
I got a couple shows coming up. I won't be here. Is next Tuesday. I got the Damned are coming. I've never seen the Damned live. I've heard they've been amazing the last couple tours. Now that Rat's back in the band, and then followed that up like a couple days later with AC/DC. They're hitting Nashville, so I'm driving up for that. So
right on.
The AC/DC shows have been getting good reviews.
That's what I've heard. I'm looking forward to it. I had tickets to go see them last time they came through, and they switched up singers, and I refused to see them with Axl.
I get it. I totally get that.
So I sold that ticket. I probably made double what I bought the ticket for, so it's cool, but still, and I didn't expect, them to ever tour again. So it's cool that they're going to do one more run here in the U.S.
Well, I'm glad that he sounds good, because I've heard mixed reviews about other bands of that ilk. Like I said, I had a huge mail day today, not the least of which included a guy from Israel named Gaddy Kaplan. He sent me a CD. I just liked his music. I was listening to it probably on Facebook or whatever. And I said, man, that's pretty cool. And he said, well, give me your address. I'll send you a CD. He sent me a CD all the way from Israel. And I'll continue to buy from him. The guy's, it's a jazz prog fusion project, mostly instrumental. It's kind of it's tapping into that early 70s jazz fusion thing with a little more modern elements, but it's really, really good. So shout out to Gaddy Kaplan. And then I got this huge box from our friend Tanner Poppet from Madras.
Nice.
And he sent me tons and tons of vinyl. So I have vinyl copies of everything that they put out on vinyl, and I look forward to dropping those off at the various record stores around. That's kind of what Tanner and I discussed. He said, I'll send you multiple copies, just spread the word, and I just want people to hear it. And so that's very reminiscent of when my son was DIYing out of the trunk of his car. He was recording music and basically just dropping it off. He was more concerned about being heard, less concerned about getting rich, so to speak. And it was truly for the love of music. I feel like Tanner's kind of on the same plane. And I got another something in the mail, and I'm going to save it for my POW, my pick of the week, because everybody needs this record. So you want me to do that now?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay. Come on. Suspense killing me.
So the suspense is killing Katon. Hey, so every week I do a pick of the week. I do a rock pick and I do a metal pick. So my rock pick, that was an easy one. This is Cream, Disraeli Gears. This is an audiophile Japanese pressing, and it's an original pressing. I really dig this record. It's the early onset of heavy metal and proto metal. I really love this thing. The riffs are extreme. The sound quality is really good, especially on this pressing. I love the Japanese pressings, especially when it's an audiophile pressing. So Disraeli Gears Cream is my rock pick. And man, John, look at that weird cover.
It's the Spain pressing of Disraeli Gears. Isn't that weird?
Wow. That's crazy.
That
Yeah.
is crazy.
It was funny that you listened to that one because I was just listening to it too. That's why I had it right behind me.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Just something about it. I was rearranging the record room, and saw that thing. You know, the cover is so killer. This is one of my favorite. You know, as a somewhat of an artist, I look at things graphically, and man, this thing is so killer. There
it
you
is.
go. So I pulled it out and listened to it, and
You
man,
guys got
it's,
me digging records, man.
yeah. So it's super great. Now, this is another thing I got in the mail, and I didn't make any promises, but I wanted to save it as a surprise to Shannon. But Shannon Fry, just out of the Clear
nice.
Blue, sent this. This is the brand new Avenger of Blood EP, and it's on marbled black and gray, limited to 200. They call it Thrones of Ash colored vinyl. How metal is that? This thing sonically is brilliant, and man, it is a poser disposer. If you're a metalhead, you need this record. Avenger of Blood, Revenge is My Name, and that ain't no joke, man. This thing is a stone cold metal killer. So, picks of the week: Disraeli Gears by Cream and Revenge is My Name by Avenger of Blood. Couldn't be happier to have both.
I'm going to point this one out again. We talked about it last week, but man, I can't get enough of this. The Thin Lizzy acoustic sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that thing is so good. I've been playing it nonstop. There you go. I thought it was going to be like a money grab type of deal, and man, it's fantastic. It should be in everybody's collection. If you like Thin Lizzy even a little bit, you should have that.
More than a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you checked that out
It's
yet?
a real Thin Lizzy, and there's a couple of them in this group.
You got like Thin Lizzy big heads in here.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is
actually,
Eric Bell got a hold of some of the vocal tracks from some of the songs, and him and Brian Downey got together, and so it's all Phil's vocals with Eric playing acoustic guitar and Brian playing drums on about half the tracks. It's fantastic.
I'll have to check it out. I didn't do it just because, like you said, I thought it was a cash grab, and I'm really, when it comes to Thin Lizzy, it's like
it's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't play, but you know what I did hear, and it's amazing, is the live recording from that new box set, from the '76 box set. There's a live show in there. I believe it's from Cleveland. And it's awesome. But yeah, anything I can get my hands on when it comes to Thin Lizzy, it's ridiculous. There's just such an important band to me. Yeah, that thing right there. That thing is insane. And
yep.
I'm sure they're not done because that band has such a catalog.
Oh,
they're gonna keep digging. Like there was that Rock Legends box set. I don't know if you have that sitting around there, Scott, but the Rock Legends box set.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
the Live and Dangerous, though, everybody talked about how they went back in the studio and re-recorded that. If you listen to the live shows in that box set, I don't hear where they went in the studio and re-recorded everything. It sounds, I mean, unless they went and re-recorded every one of those live
shows. There you go.
Yeah,
that thing's insane. Talking about what you have to have in your record collection. That thing, the tracks that they didn't put on the original release, oh my God. And even the song Johnny, which is one of my favorites, Johnny on that box set is insane. And It's Only Money. Those tracks are just priceless. So yeah, that stuff, without saying, get it all. Get all that stuff.
If it says Thin Lizzy on the outside, just get it all. Hey, Tony Clem, shout out to you. If you want to check out Madras, check your mail in the next 7 to 10 days.
Speaking of records, this is kind of interesting. I don't really buy records like I used to. I used to go crazy. And then I started staring at my record collection, and I'm like, I got to be more, picky. So I haven't bought a record in a while, but this weekend I was at a record fair.
Oh, nice. I already know what that is.
And a friend of mine gave me this. It's a flexi disc.
Yeah, flexi.
Yeah. And I was like, I'll take that, because I don't really want to add anything to my collection unless it's really cool. And I thought this thing was very cool.
Yeah.
Yep, that's badass.
So, yeah, but like I said, when you stare at your collection long enough, you're like, I don't want to put anything in there that desecrates it. So now I'm really, really picky about what I buy,
Gee, that comes with age, I think.
Yeah,
But anyway,
something like this. This will go into my collection.
oh
Yeah,
well,
that's my all-time favorite Rory Gallagher. Actually, I just picked up on the subject of him. I didn't even know this one existed. This is from '71, Live Taste. I thought I had all the Taste stuff, and
Yeah, that's
one I've never seen
I think
before.
that's is that the second live album?
Yeah, so this has this is the second live album.
Yeah, I'm a freak for all that shit. I have all
I
that.
didn't know about this one, so I was really happy to run across that.
Yeah, I'm a nightmare. Do you have this one yet? This is another good one.
Yeah, I definitely have that.
Yeah, you have to have all that shit. If you like Rory, you go crazy.
Got a lot of comments coming in. A lot of people watching right now. Good.
Right on. Well, hopefully they're record collectors because they're getting some good
because
stuff.
they're getting an earful of records.
Excuse me.
So not to get too far off the beaten path, because we could talk about records all day. Because I thought it would be interesting for Katon to come back on. He's been on before, and I just got done seeing him. He and HIRAX just absolutely rip it up down in Houston. I'm glad they finally played the show. You said you'd been asked several times, but they just couldn't make it work schedule wise. But you guys absolutely that was a really, really good day for metal with you and DRI, and it seemed like wasn't Cavalera the nightcap, or was that anyway? I just remember we got there specifically to see you, and you didn't disappoint, of course, and it's I don't know how old you are. I'm guessing between 50 and 60.
61.
Well, okay, 61. But I'm telling you, when you see that man singing and being body surfed across a swarthing mass of inhumanity, that's pretty cool. Because I'm in my 60s too, and so I couldn't imagine having that kind of athleticism at that age. However, so tell us about. We know about Phantasm, we know about HIRAX, and HIRAX has been a revolving door, and I think the new record absolutely destroys. It's awesome. However, then I see news of this new project. Take it from here.
Yeah. Dude, I was pleasantly asked to do this project, and it was guys that I totally love. So that was the super bonus. Was for one, when they told me who was going to be involved, Rick Hunold and Doug Piercy and Tom Gears and Will Carroll. Like, you know, I know Will Carroll because he plays for Death Angel, so I've seen him around for years. Tom Gears is like the newest guy, but what a musician and such a great bass player. And then Rick and Doug are like seriously two of my favorite guitar players from the Bay Area. So, I mean, I knew Doug, he was in a band called Anvil Chorus, and he's basically the guy that started Heathen. And then obviously Rick from Exodus, which me and Rick go back 40 years, you know. So just massive respect for them anyways. And then they had me come up to San Francisco. We basically kept everything super quiet because we didn't want to be one of those bands that says, oh, we're doing a band, but we have no music. So we got the music done first. And I'm really so over the moon about this band. You know, I mean, obviously HIRAX is my baby and it's still going strong too, but Nefarious is going to be doing a lot of stuff. We've got a first show in the Bay Area coming up July 19th at this place called the DNA Lounge, which is a very known venue up in the Bay Area. And, you know, they're still dropping, like next month there'll be a new single, but we have a new single out right now called One Nation Enslaved. And it's doing like we didn't know what to expect when we did this record. We just thought, well, we're gonna do something we like, and we'll see how it does. But this thing came out like last week. I think it was a week from today. Last week it came out, and it's just been all over the place. Like, just the response to it has been insane. I mean, we're getting so much press from countries that, you know, we haven't even thought of going to yet. I mean, everything from Russia to Finland, obviously the US, and San Francisco has been so supportive. I mean, you know, to have that kind of a fan base that we already have up in the Bay Area, and the word is spreading really fast. But I couldn't be happier with the beginning of this band, like to drop this single. And it's already moving really fastly, and it's already up on all the streaming services, because that was one of the things that we were worried about. people, even though they buy records, and this record is going to be on vinyl, so I'll make sure that people know that it's going to be on vinyl and CD right off the bat. But people still do stream a lot of music. So, you know, Spotify and Apple Music, iTunes, it's up on that. And things are going great. You know, the Bandcamp's where we originally released it first, and it did really well. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's bought it off of Bandcamp, because there's people that actually added money onto it just to support the band. Because I didn't really know much about Bandcamp in the beginning, but you know, you can actually put money on there if you want to put more towards supporting the band. So everybody that's done that, thank you. But yeah, it's going great, and there's another single coming out next month, and yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I didn't expect this. The creativity of the band too, which is really important, because all these guys have been playing for many years. So writing with them and collaborating and coming up with ideas has just been a lot of fun.
Right on. I know you. He just said we when you were on the show last time, we talked, mostly went through your whole catalog pretty much. But one question I didn't ask was last time was I kind of wanted to know a little bit about Fantasm, because I don't know much about it. I mean, I have the album, but what was it all? Tell us a little bit about that. And what was it about? And
it was the first time I stepped outside of doing HIRAX, and I did something which now it's way more comfortable for me. Like in the early days, I wanted to be one of those guys, like a baseball player that stays with a team to the end of his career, but as you start learning more about music, and you want to collaborate with other musicians, because you can learn a lot from each other, different recording methods and all that stuff. So when we did Phantasm, that was back in 1987, and we were lucky because I'd been working with Bill Matoyer a lot, so he ended up producing that record. And the musicians that played on it, not everybody got to do it, because we actually had Rocky George. He was in the band at that time. But when we recorded that Phantasm record that you just showed, we actually were doing it at the same time Suicidal Tendencies was recording Join the Army. So Rocky had to leave to do that record, and we ended up just doing it without him. But it turned out great. Gene Hoglan was on the drums, because when we started that project, Gene Hoglan had heard that me and Ron McGovney, the original Metallica bass player who's on that record, when Gene Hoglan heard that me and Ron McGovney were doing this record, he was like, dude, I want to play drums on that. And we were like, hell yeah, because even back then when Gene was coming up, he was already a great drummer. Like, it's when people tell me now how great he is, I'm like, I knew that back 40 years ago, And so working with him and Ron, and, we had a guy named Rodney Nicholson on guitar and another guy named Nathan Williams on guitar. And they were really young at the time. They were probably like 19 or 18 years old back then. But that record I'm really proud of. Not everybody knows about it. And that's kind of what's cool about it, that Phantasm record. Half of it's a demo. It's 6 songs. And then the other half is a live recording that we did when we were on tour with Nuclear Assault in Arizona. We recorded that in Arizona back when we were touring with Nuclear Assault. So a lot of great memories with that record. I'm really glad I did it. The band didn't really last long, and I think a lot of that just goes back to being crazy, young, and drunk. Because back in the 80s, let's be honest, we were raging, especially if you were like fresh 21 years old. And, it was like the 80s were, I mean, kids today, they'll never know. I mean, I know our parents told us the same thing. These were something way insane, way different, And so all those records, when I look back to those 80s recordings, I've got great memories, but those were really wild times. But I'm glad we did that.
To your point, I was going to say on a dare from Hair Metal Rob, he wanted me to watch that documentary called Nothing But a Good Time. And it's about the 80s metal scene in LA. And the hair metal scene, if we can call it that. And it was absolutely just straight up hairspray and debauchery. It was just complete insanity. So I can only imagine growing up in a music scene, especially like the Bay Area scene that was just exploding at the time, with kind of the counterbalance to the LA glam scene was the Bay Area thrash scene. And I'm sure it was equally as
Well, the level of booze in
debauchery.
the Bay Area thrash scene was insane. So
Yeah, debauchery and insanity. You know what's great for me? This is what's even interesting with me doing Nefarious now, is that I was always between both, areas. So I would go to San Francisco and LA, and I lived in LA, but I was up in San Francisco a lot. So I got to see LA and San Francisco at that time in total anarchy. Seriously, like the parties were insane. People were destroying stuff just because that's what you did back then. So you would put on heavy metal records and destroy shit. But great times. And even LA, like, to see Motley Crue and those bands rise up was pretty awesome. I mean, now when I look back on it, even me and James Hetfield, we went to one of the most shows that's never talked about. There was a show where Motley Crue played this place called Centrex, and it was in a city called Wilmington, which was like an outskirt of LA. And me and James Hetfield and Ron McGovney went to that show, and there was probably 15 people there. And nobody ever talks about that show. This is like, I think they might have had their 7-inch Toast of the Town. I think that was out at the time. But, to see those bands. And then I saw them like a month later, and it was Rat with Jakey Lee on guitar and Steeler with Yngwie Malmsteen. So to see those bands rise up, and also with the thrash metal thing with bands like Megadeth and HIRAX and Dark Angel, Slayer, Exodus, Testament. Testament weren't even called Testament yet; they were called Legacy.
Yep.
So
the 80s was so funny too, because you could literally be playing to 15 people, get a single on the radio, and then be selling out the clubs within a couple of weeks. I mean, there's so many bands that there's stories of that,
Oh yeah, Motley Crue is one of them. I mean, they started out pretty modestly. They just started rising up, and then once they got some recordings going, it really started happening for them. But yeah, it's for all of us, it was weird to be playing locally, and then finally when we did like even our record with Metal Blade, when that record came out, everything changed for us. We went from playing little clubs to playing, the Santa Monica Civic with Venom. It was pretty nuts to have that happen, playing with bands like Exciter and Megadeth. Just good, good stuff, So I can't complain. I've had a pretty good ride, and I feel like I'm still just getting started. I think that's why when we perform live, I still go crazy, just because I'm really grateful to be doing
And
this.
I can vouch for that, man. You were all over the map, and then I would lose you. And I'd say, where did he go? Is he getting a drink backstage? And no, I'd see you floating across the crowd and all the security guys grasping for you, trying to get you back on stage. So it's good that you still have that health and that energy. So what's the long term for Nefarious? I mean, obviously you still are cooking with gas on the new HIRAX record, but so Nefarious, the album drops. What happens?
I think we're going to be doing a lot of touring. I mean, just from the response that already happened. Like I said, we thought it would do all right, but we didn't know this was going to happen. And it's just getting started. Like I said, it only came out last week, and some people still don't even know yet. But like the show that we have in the Bay Area, the ticket sales have already been so good that they're already talking about other stuff. But we want to just focus on this show one at a time, because it's still a new band. Like, people don't realize, like, even this new song that just came out, that's just me going up to San Francisco and hammering that out in like maybe 3 hours, so it's a fresh new band. For some reason, I think because we've been doing it for a while, each musician in the band has been playing music for 40 plus years. So it's pretty cool working with these guys. It's like crazy because everybody has mad talent. But I think we'll be doing a lot of touring. I think that we're going to always stay up on the songwriting because of our bands that we idolize, whether it's AC/DC or Thin Lizzy. A lot of those bands did 2 albums a year. I don't know if we can match that, but I think you still have to have some material in the can. So I see us writing more material, because it's also, we're doing good with it. Like, we're not phoning it in. We're not writing filler material. Like, we're really serious about it. We listen to the recordings a lot, even the ones that are coming out, we're still listening to them up to the last minute before they come out, because we want to make sure they sound good and, the songs are arranged well.
So it's a pretty eclectic mix of musicians in the band. Is it just guys that you've met over the years touring, or how did you guys get together?
Well, the interesting thing is that it kind of was happening whether we realized it or not, like over time, because there were a few benefits. Like I saw some of these guys. We did a benefit for Sean Killian from Violence, and then there was also a benefit for the drummer from Exodus. And I don't think the guys are remembering all this, but the benefit that we did for Tom Hunting from Exodus, I actually jammed. Gary Holt had given me a call, and he said, "Hey, you want to be Sanger?" He said Sanger, like he goes, but he meant singer. But he said, "Hey, you want to sang with us?" And I said, "Sure," because there's two guys that can always call me, and I'm in, and that would be either Rick Hunolt or Gary Holt. And Gary called me. I went up. I jammed with him and Rick, and it was Chris Contos on drums and Craig Lucero on bass, and we did this benefit for Tom Hunting, and that kind of started the wheels rolling. I didn't really think about it too much, but then there was another call where Rick called me, and they were doing this festival up in Lakeport, California, which is right outside of San Francisco. It's in that area, but it's its own world. Like if you've ever heard of Lakeport, you go there, it's its own place, And so there was a festival there where Blind Illusion, and at the time, Doug Piercy and Tom Gears were both in Blind Illusion. So I saw them there, and we were talking, and and Rick Hunolt was there. So, it was, these things kind of brought us together. And then there was a message that I sent to Doug Piercy because he had just left. There was a problem with Blind Illusion. They had left that band, and I just wished him the best. I was like, I hope whatever you're doing, you do well. And because I was pretty busy, I'm still really busy with the new HIRAX record. Faster Than Death hasn't even been out that long either. But so Doug said, "Hey, I wanted to see if you'd be interested in maybe singing on some of these songs." And I said, "Sure," because of who was involved. When he told me who was involved, I was like, why not? And I went up to San Francisco, and the first song we did was One Nation Enslaved. And we just kept rolling. There were more songs that we just did. And now there's almost a full album complete. It's almost done. So just seeing these guys around and having respect for them. I mean, I knew Heathen, I knew Anvil Chorus. Those were legendary San Francisco bands. Obviously, Rick, I have nothing but mass respect for. And also, Rick's an amazing guy. He's funnier than hell and fun to be around. And, and then Tom Gears is awesome. And then Will Carroll's a great drummer and a great dude. So it's like being in a band with guys that all that other bullshit doesn't matter. We really are about the music. Like that's what people really are getting when they listen to these records. Like these are guys that just really love music. We're not trying to do anything but create some good music. We obviously have our heroes. So you're going to hear a bit of that in there. You're going to hear some Michael Schenker. You're going to hear some UFO. You're going to hear some Thin Lizzy, even though not directly you're going to hear it, but those are the influences that are in this metal, even though it's thrash metal, but there's a little bit more to it for sure.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the new HIRAX.
Right on. Yeah,
I mean, you got Max Norman producing, right?
That thing is a ripper. I can't even speak to how good it is.
Thanks, man. When I look at that record, there's a lot of emotions because, man, we went through so much. I mean, obviously, HIRAX has been a really interesting and strange and fun story at the same time itself. But doing that record was like probably the hardest record I've ever had to make. The hardest record I made with HIRAX, just because it was a turbulent time with the pandemic. We started that record during the pandemic, writing it here in my house. And, we couldn't really go out and see people and, be around people. So that made the record I think that's why the record's so intense. It's not the longest record, but the thing with us on that record was more important to make sure the tracks that we did put out, we really believed in and that they were strong. And also kind of wanted to represent the anger of being like sequestered and staying home because we had curfews, we couldn't leave, we couldn't go out. And if you did, you had to go out for something really important. I don't think everybody remembers that. I mean, some people are going to remember, but
I remember it.
Yeah. Now that the time has passed, some people, they're out there acting like we didn't go through a pandemic. But for me, it was something that I'll never forget. So that record kind of has that as kind of an underlying current through it. But
unless you're the governor, if you're the governor, you can go out.
yeah. So, you know, for us normal, regular people, it was a tough ass time.
Yeah, huh?
So that record
same thing here.
Yeah, but the record was cool because a lot of the things that are involved in it, like when you look at the artwork, that was a guy from Brazil named Tomas and Pinheiro, and he was awesome because he was sending us artwork, not just that artwork, but he was sending us a lot of HIRAX artwork, which was really getting our spirits up, even during that really dark time. So when it came time to do the record, I was like, this guy deserves the cover, you know, like I wanted to stick with an artist that was somebody that maybe wasn't known everywhere, but I loved his artwork and he believed in us, and that really was important to me too. So that's the guy that did the art, and he did an amazing job. There's front artwork, there's back artwork, there's the inserts, different artwork. I mean, we really wanted to do kind of like this, even though it's a studio album, I wanted to do something kind of like the Kiss Alive 2, where you got a lot in it. Like you got a poster, you got, you know, a little form in there and stuff. So that record really is a piece of work. Like, I don't know if you've seen the European version too, because there's the US version. They all look beautiful, but the European version's like a book. It's hard cardboard. It's really heavy. In fact, it's such a bitch to mail that we had to get special mailers for it because it's a little bit bigger than the US version. But there's so much love put into that record, and I really, each track just comes at you, and it's kind of interesting to see what everybody's different favorite tracks are. Some people love, there's a song on there called Drowned Bodies, you know, they really dig that one, or they dig the opening track. And you know, we really had so much fun doing it, even though it was a lot of work. I mean, it was recorded in I'm giving you all the little dirt, but the crazy thing, it was recorded in a studio that was owned by this Russian guy. And I think, we were in Inglewood, California. So we would, and it's done like where you still had to mask up. We had to mask up, going there, and then walking into the studio to record. So that record's got so many deep memories on it. But I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud of the quality. You know, like I said, there's, you know, when you open that record up, it's a gatefold. We didn't want to be cheap about it. We wanted to give people something, that they could actually kick back. So next time you look at Kiss Alive 2, look at that record and you'll see some resemblances, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of our listeners, Mark Fields, who's a sound engineer from Boston, he's been in Siege and Public Death and some other killer bands. He says the new HIRAX album is the best release since Hate, Fear, and Power, in his opinion.
Awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Is that and not to critique any of your other records, but is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think with musicians, you're kind of like, you know, you hear this a lot, but it's the fucking truth. It's like they're like your children, each record. And for me, like each record, I remember very well, like what we were going through and what was being done at that time. Like, you know, so the first album's always going to be one of those records that's really close to your heart because it's the first record you do. And, you know, you're learning how to record. You know, it's your first time in a major recording studio. And, you know, it's like between us and Billy Idol and Slayer, we're recording at the same time when we did that record. Same with Hate, Fear, and Power. Like, you're switching out of the studio and you're seeing Billy Idol walk out, and then there's guys from Slayer. And so, you know, a lot of memories. But this record, I would say for, you know, later on in my career, not too shabby for a 61-year-old fucking guy, you know?
I 100% agree. And I always run into this when I talk to people about albums, and where they ask you to, you know, pick your favorite album from this artist. And it's not that I don't like the other releases, because I love your whole catalog, and it is varied and different from album to album. But not everything can be Bombs of Death, you know what I mean? Or whatever. But what they don't understand is I can like it all, but in picking my favorite, obviously, the newest one is this one in this particular discussion is probably my favorite. Is the, you know, Faster Than Death.
I think you can always tell people's favorite by when they say this is the best album since Raging Violence, which means Raging Violence is probably their favorite, or this is the best album since New Age of Terror.
Yeah, you know, and I get that because I'm the same way, dude. Like for me, I'll never shy away that I'm a fucking music fan, man. Like I like you bring up Siege. I know who Siege are. They're from Boston, you know. So I'm a nerd and I'm proud of it. But you know, I get it. Like, and metal fans are unrelenting in their loyalty to certain records or certain records they don't like. That's why when we started this conversation, which was pretty awesome. But I'm just saying, like, people, they're either gonna love it, hate it, you know, or whatever, indifference, or maybe it's their third favorite record by that band or whatever. But you know, I think the cool thing is that's what's great about music and especially metal. We have a right to these awesome opinions, and nobody really gets that butthurt. You know, like that's what's great about music. Like other things, people get all pissed about, and you know what I'm talking about. But when it comes to metal, we can actually agree to disagree and still like each other. Like if somebody likes Strangers in the Night better than Live and Dangerous, which to me it's a tie, but you can respect that if somebody likes one of those records better than the other. No problem.
Yeah. Unless they think it sucks, then I got a problem with it.
Then we're fighting.
And then we go to the parking lot, as I always say. One of the few states where it's legal to take your disagreement to the parking lot and issue, as long as you don't use a weapon, and then it's okay to discuss it out there. But anyhow, so moving forward, do you have any? Scott usually asks this question, but do you have any Spinal Tap moments?
Oh yeah, I mean that can't help but happen when you're in a band, you know, like there's many. I think what happens is that's what was so great about that movie, especially for people that have been like, not even if you're a musician, if you're a roadie or you worked at a nightclub or you've gone to shows, you know, there's always something that goes wrong or it's got to be fixed. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing as being a musician. Like you've always got to fix something. Either there's somebody can't make it on time. My favorite is when they say they're going to be there in 20 minutes, which means a half hour. You know, so there's always, yeah, or they're going to be there in a half hour and it's an hour. And then they get there like, dude, I'm sorry. You know, and you can tell that they stopped for McDonald's. You're like, dude, you could have been here earlier. You know? But for us, it's usually when it's a really big venue or a big stage, like the House of Blues. That's probably my favorite. That for me is that years ago we played there. It was us and Evil Dead, and we played the House of Blues, and I didn't realize how big it was and how much it was like a mice maze. It was ridiculous. So the intro tape goes on, and I'm trying to find the stage, and the intro tape's already finished, and I still can't find the stage because there's so many corridors going through this backstage, and it makes you look like an idiot, but you're not that stupid. What it is those places are a cat maze. They're really, there's so many different doors because there's places that outload, inload. There's, you know, the kitchens by the, you know, the backstage. So there's all these different doors. But I finally did find the stage, but I was a few seconds late getting on. But yeah, you know, just stupid stuff like that. So now I always
Cleveland.
Yeah. I always try to make sure where the stage door is and try to remember routes. But usually the bigger the venue, you know, like playing places like in Germany where we played, there's this festival called Bang Your Head. It's not going anymore because the promoter actually passed away. But there was this festival that we used to play with bands like Twisted Sister and Y&T, and that stage was pretty crazy, you know. So just knowing where you're at and kind of studying the venue so you know not to like make a mistake by not being able to be on stage on time.
Yeah. Well, we've got one of our listeners that says, "Can I share a HIRAX story?" And I would say, "Yeah, sure." Now he's in the Philippines, so have you traveled? You traveled to the Far East, haven't you?
That's one of the few places still on the bucket list. The crazy thing is for decades, and now the band's been over 4 decades, we've always gotten fan mail and messages and letters from the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, all those awesome Southeast territories, and we haven't toured there yet. But I would love to get there, hopefully in the next year or so, just because there is a big fan base there. People don't realize that Southeast Asia has a really big heavy metal scene.
A huge heavy metal scene. In fact, through some of my friends in Melbourne, Australia, they talk about touring in those areas, and they put them up in 5-star hotels, and they play a matinee and an evening show, and they get treated like royalty there. And I get some of the compilations from there, and they're insane. That like this is a band from Bangladesh or India or Malaysia, or it's crazy. But Nanoi is from the Philippines. I actually did a couple album covers for them, and a T-shirt design, and I we just trade music for services. We'll work for records, that type of thing. Yeah. And his band Pagan Fire has still trying to break out. I'm just wondering if he's trying. I'm curious about his story, so hopefully he'll write something in and we can discuss it. But,
Nanoi, go ahead and share it. I'll post it. Share it and I'll post it up.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that story, just because for, like I said, for years, like they were one of the first territories that was actually making HIRAX merchandise. I mean, what was cool, I don't even mind bootlegs as long as somebody sends me a copy, but the people from Southeast Asia would always send me copies of like bootleg T-shirts and patches and stuff. So I always thought that was really cool. But yeah, I'd love to hear the story. But
one of our Canadian folks said they'd love to see you tour Canada.
Yeah, what's crazy about this interview, all these guys are bringing up territories we've never toured yet. Canada for me is like ridiculous. We should have toured there years ago because it's a very important market. Obviously, some of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time have come out of there. So it's also out of respect we should tour there. But yeah, I would love to get to Canada, hopefully soon. I mean, we have so many friends there, even bands like Slaughter and Sacrifice. We still tour here and there. We do shows with Sacrifice, and they're incredible people. So it's like, yeah, maybe we should do like a Sacrifice HIRAX tour, get over to Canada, maybe invite Exciter on there, maybe some Anvil guys can join us. We'll see,
Okay.
Playing, so, I mean, the U.S. is so big now, and there's so many cities that you're playing in, in the U.S., you're usually playing to smaller crowds these days.
Yeah,
it's like going from that to Europe or to Japan or someplace else.
It's pretty insane. I love. It's funny. I love the U.S. I mean, I'm from here, but yeah, we do have a discrepancy when it comes to the followings and the turnouts. Not that we have amazing heavy metal fans. I'm talking to 3 of them right now.
Yeah.
We have solid metal fans all over the U.S. I mean, we have some of the best. But when you get to the other countries, it's just that the metal's respected and loved, and even the bigger companies support it. So, like, you have major magazines, you have major promotion, and they treat it like it's religion, basically. I mean, you go, especially South America. South America is unfreaking believable. Europe is, I think the thing is, we get kind of spoiled with Europe because they just do everything right. I mean, even the festivals, there's plenty of bathrooms. It's not like you're like looking around to find a bathroom at the festivals in Europe. Germany's always an honor to tour through because Germany's been doing metal as long as anybody, So Europe is amazing. Japan is unbelievable. Like for all musicians always say I want to play Japan, and there's a reason, because it's awesome. And then back to South America, it's like, it's something that you can't even imagine until you do play there, because they sing along like they're louder than the
South
band.
America is the craziest thing I've ever seen, because Brazil, I've been to shows in Brazil, and the crowds at Slayer shows are notoriously like the craziest crowds in America. When you go to shows in Brazil, every show is like that. The Brazilians, man, it's a whole nother world seeing any kind of metal down there.
Yeah, I kind of figured it out. Like, and also, let's not forget, though, this is a different area, but Mexico.
Yeah.
I think what it is that they live for the moment. Like, they really don't suppress their energy. They don't suppress how happy they are about the music. So I think that's one of the things I've taken away from going to these countries, is that when you get there, they're in the moment. They really are into everything about the show. They're getting merchandise. They're walking around checking out the T-shirt stands. They're eating the food. They're really taking it all in, and that's kind of a beautiful thing to see. So, but like I said, the States is still, I love it. Like New York City, when we tour there, or when we do San Francisco. Obviously Los Angeles. It kind of almost gets underrated because it's just so awesome. I mean, let's be real, like LA, you can see some great shit in LA. So, I think it sometimes get people kind of downplay how cool Los Angeles is, but it's really awesome. And then Texas, but there's other little pockets, like even where you guys are at, and then even I gotta mention Arizona, because years ago we used to go through Arizona and it was great. So
Arizona was a huge metal town. It's kind of died down recently, but when I was growing up, I mean, you would the Nile Theater and stuff would be jam packed. You couldn't get anybody in there, and there'd be 120 degrees, and then it's like 160 in the room because there's so many people, and it was a blast.
I just think I said, like with the U.S., I just think there needs to be more support. I mean, obviously, the underground scene has always been strong in the U.S. Like, we do whatever it takes. We trade CDs, we trade vinyl. We talk to other people that are into it. It's just that I don't think there's enough support with the bigger companies. Not that it has to be commercial, but there are great companies over there in Europe supporting the metal, and that's why it's still so damn big. Like, why do you think there's Wacken? Because there's a lot of support behind Wacken. Like when we played Wacken, talk about being treated right and, hanging out with your favorite bands, like that festival's ridiculous. Like right when you walk into the backstage, it's like Uli John Ross over there and Gene Simmons is over there. It's ridiculous, but, you also feel very fortunate and grateful once you start doing this stuff. Like it's not lost on me how lucky I am. I think that's why I'm still so into this shit, because I'm really grateful that I can still travel and do this shit and meet the fans, because the fans, they kick your ass. Like unless you have no heart, when you meet these fans, they blow you away. Just the stories. I mean, we were in Spain one year, and this guy came up and he was wearing a denim vest, and he said, "I came because my brother couldn't make it." And I was like, I didn't want to pry, but I'm like, "Why isn't your brother here?" He goes, "Well, he passed away the last time he left one of your shows. He was driving home and got in an accident."
Oh.
And I was like, "Dude, you're blowing me away." And he goes, "Well, the reason I also came is to be like, he would have been here, so I'm here in his place." And that was, that's a humbling experience when you talk to somebody's brother who came in place of his brother to see your show. So yeah, we've had moments like that many times. People have been buried with HIRAX records. So when they tell you these stories, if you're not humbled by that, I don't know what kind of a human you could be.
Well, here's another humbling story from Ninoy Padrawan in the Philippines. I don't know if I could do this with my mom, but he said, "My mom and I watched the Thrash and Destroy DVD, and she loves Katon and HIRAX, and that's the only metal band she loves."
Wow.
And her son's in Pagan Fire, which is a great, well-known band there. So now I could probably watch a Kansas DVD with my mom, but not a HIRAX one. So
that's amazing.
Props to Mama Padrawan for.
Well, we joked about this before. It's funny when you hear. I remember maybe 5 years ago walking in a Walmart with an Iron Maiden shirt on, and like this 70-year-old lady was like, "I love Iron Maiden. I was at their first shows in the U.S."
Wow.
And in my head, I'm seeing this 70-year-old woman, not considering that I'm almost 50 myself. You know what I mean? You can't put it in your head that she was in her 20s at that show.
Yeah, well, that's the thing for us. Luckily we've been around.
Yeah.
If you're a young kid, you don't see it that way. But now, like, there's times people are talking to me, and I'm like, "You're old," and I'm like, "I'm old," because you through your eyes, you don't see that. You're looking out. But I think it's awesome though when you think about grandparents that listen to heavy metal now. Like, that's fucking, our generation kicks ass. Think about that.
I got 6 grandkids.
That's awesome.
Well, how many genres have stuck around like that too? The way metal has.
Hey, we've had it. I'm going to butt in roll just real quick, but we've had a few people asking where can they buy HIRAX merch, and I put the link to the HIRAX store on the so you guys can just click on the link. So it's on all the forums there, all the formats.
Yeah, normally I'd say the best place is Bandcamp, HIRAX Bandcamp.
You have that Big Cartel too, right? The HIRAX Big Cartel.
Well, actually, the brain fart. Big Cartel is the best one, actually. Yeah, so HIRAX
That's the one
Big
I posted.
Cartel. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, all that, and that's what I want to also really address is that support really matters. Like even with this Nefarious thing, people have been, they're actually pumping up the band by putting a few bucks into the band. Like I mean, I know you guys know that because you buy a lot of merchandise directly from bands, but that shit really, really matters. And it really does help because we are independent. You know, we really do shit ourselves. I still do all the mail and it ain't easy, but I do it because also I know that I'll give it the care and love that it should get. I mean, I care about the people that buy these products. I mean, even the vinyl, you should see me. I put time into making sure there's no bunny ears. I want those records to get to people mint condition. When they open that package, they should have a record. Even if the package is a little beat up, the record still should survive because there's nothing worse than getting merchandise that's jacked up. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that buys directly from the bands because that shit matters and it really does help.
I see the steam coming off of Scott's head. He's still thinking about that Kansas record that got skipped across the driveway but was listed as mint condition. Was that Kansas? Is that a Kansas record? I think it was. I ended up having to send him a clean copy because he was just so fuming about it.
Yeah, which record was it?
Was it Mass?
Oh man,
or Song for America?
It
was Song for America.
That was the biggest pause of this interview. I asked what was the Kansas record, and
I know I had to think for a second. It was because I have them all, but it was Song for America. Yeah, we were. I had a copy, but it was just old and beat. So I was trying to buy a new one or a better one. So I bought a mint copy off of Discogs, and someone used it as an ashtray. I'm sure they had it as a frisbee for a while, and so I don't. So it may have been mint at one time, but it wasn't mint by the time it got to me. So yeah, and the thing is, I ended up buying 3 different copies, and all of them were crap.
Oh my God!
So I finally gave up a copy because I just couldn't listen to it anymore. And Kansas being one of my favorite bands, I thought, and I always probably like you, if I see something that I already have, I'll buy it anyway, knowing that somebody is going to get.
I do it all the time.
This record, it happens with Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs, happens with the Kansas catalog, Kiss, Led Zeppelin. But and that leads me to my other question, or one of my other questions is what, besides Thin Lizzy, what is some of your favorite classic rock influences?
Well, those are great questions, and I'll tell you why. Because like with most of us, like obviously we love metal, but I'm gonna go more rock, like hard rock. All right. So obviously I'm a huge Hendrix guy for a lot of reasons. It's not just one. Like with him, it's more about like what he did in the studio. The amount of time he released those 3 first studio records is insane. When you think about that catalog, those 3 records were done in like 2 years. That's nuts. I mean, so for me, a lot of his stuff is just like I'm still learning. Like with a guy like Hendrix, there's so much crap to learn. Like you don't realize until you get into that, dude. Recording techniques, how he recorded, like they would work out material at sound checks and then go record later on after gigs. They were insane. So Hendrix is one of them. Obviously, you know, Rory Gallagher, we were talking about him earlier. I'm a big Rory Gallagher guy. I'm kind of a guitar geek, even though I'm a singer. So there's a guy named Roy Buchanan. I'm a freak for him. I love Roy Buchanan. There's another guy named Danny Gatton. Danny Gatton's another dude that I dig a lot. He if you look him up, he's just like one of those guys that would just scare the hell out of most guitar players. So Danny Gatton's a guy.
Someone wants to know if you prefer Jimi Hendrix or Thin Lizzy more.
That's not even fair.
Nope, that's like asking which are your favorite children.
Yeah, I can't even answer that one. That sucks because normally I can answer shit. I'm pretty much obsessed with both, artists. I should say both bands because they really were bands, even though Hendrix was like the lead guy. But Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding, holy shit! Like, there's only so many, 3-piece bands that could even hang with them. Obviously, there's the Cream, and we're talking about later bands like we were just talking about. Even say Grand Funk Railroad, like they were a 3-piece at a certain point, and that's a band we should talk about. Like when you get into them, even if you haven't heard of them, you get into Grand Funk and you go back through their catalog, then you start getting bitch slapped because you're like, I had no idea these guys were that deadly. They were seriously one of the best bands of the 70s.
Well, not just that. People forget. We've talked about this before. They were one of the best-selling bands in the 70s, and almost nobody talks about them anymore.
Yeah, they sold out what the
bands that nobody
biggest stadium in New York. What was it? I can't remember what stadium it was, but
what, 15 minutes or less?
Yeah, but 3 nights in a row.
Faster than the Beatles.
Yeah, they were insane. And so I still go out of my way. If I find a weird pressing, it's like a Grand Funk Railroad record, I'll buy that. Obviously, I like Cream. That was great that you guys brought up Cream earlier. Because to me, they're like the Motorhead of their time. They really were abrasive and loud and just incredible. I don't think they're another band that's I think doesn't get enough credit too. Seriously, like the only mostly serious hard rock fans bring up Cream. You know.
How about Eric Bell? I always thought he was a great guitar player too.
Yeah, you know who I'm a big sucker for. Believe it or not, is the early Fleetwood Mac stuff.
Oh yeah,
Peter Green.
Oh, yeah. And another band that I dig a lot too is Free. So those are the bands I'll kind of go with. But Free's another band. When you go back through their catalog, you're like, holy smokes, what a great band! Oh yeah, you know we're gonna keep going. Let's not forget Humble Pie.
Yeah,
can't forget Humble Pie. And then another band that you would be. There you go. I have that comp is amazing. That's a very rare comp. And then believe it or not, I'm a huge Southern rock guy. Most people wouldn't even see that one coming.
Oh yeah. I've seen you wearing your Danny Joe Brown shirt.
Yeah, I love Danny Joe Brown. Rest his soul. But yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of Southern rock. There's a band called Point Blank that I like a lot.
Yeah.
Love Point Blank.
Yeah, obviously Molly Hatchet, those, especially the first 2 albums. To me, if you don't have those in your collection, there's something wrong.
I love Molly. I love all the Molly. Let me tell you a quick Molly Hatchet story. So I've seen him like 20 times over the years.
Wow.
Well, I went to see him this one time and I got in early, so I was able to watch the sound check. So I'm sitting there just in front of the stage, leaning against the little barrier, and I'm watching Dave Flubuck play because he was pretty much one of the guys left in the band from the original, and he's staring me down like I don't know, like I was a ghost or something. But he didn't say anything to me, so I'm just sitting there leaning on the thing, watching and enjoying, watching them do the sound check, and then he takes off the stage, and then a roadie comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man," he goes, "Stick around after the show. Dave wants to talk to you." And I was like, wow. Okay. He goes, so I did. I didn't have a backstage pass or anything, so I just stuck around. Well, they had all these people backstage passes. They were going back there, and everybody took their Flirting with Disaster records back there to sign with, which wasn't the right lineup. But anyhow, I brought the record for that lineup that day, hoping I could get him to sign it. But after everybody left, Dave comes out and he goes, "Come on back." He goes, "I want to talk to you for a minute." And so I got to sit there and chat with him and the whole band and had him sign my records and everything. And he's like, "I'm sorry, I was staring at you like that." He goes, "But you look just like one of my best friends who's deceased." So it was kind of freaking me out.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Well, who was your best friend?" He goes, "Oh, he used to sing for Lynyrd Skynyrd." He was talking about,
Yeah.
And I was like,
I actually can see that, dude. And I'm a huge Skynyrd fan.
Yeah, so me too. So it was a fun story, and I mean, it was awesome that I got to and I got a picture with him. Super nice guy. We sat there and just chatted for a while, and he's like, and I gave him the new album that all those guys played on. And I was like, "You guys sign this for me?" He's like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "You're the only person tonight that actually brought the album we played on." So that was pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is, man. But
that's my story.
Basically, like 70s rock, I love that. To me, that was the gateway to me getting into heavy metal. So if it wasn't for even bands like Cheap Trick and stuff, I still love all that stuff, and obviously Kiss. But then there's kind of a switch when it came to, I got more into like a lot of the European bands. So obviously Thin Lizzy, Gary Moore is very important, and obviously any of the Scorpions records with Uli John Roth, I go crazy for it. Any of those Uli John Roth records.
Oh yeah, I love the solo stuff, even though his singing is bizarre, but I like it anyhow.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's like there you go. It's it's a totally acquired taste,
I'm sorry, I said Humble Pie, I meant Mott the Hoople.
Yeah. Mott the Hoople's amazing too.
And then someone asked about this band, but I was just listening to this the other day. Vandergraaf Generator.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, they're a 70s prog band, very weird. Yeah. I mean, if you like Hawkwind, you'll probably dig them.
All right. And then obviously, like some of the other bands to me, like I said, that kind of tilts towards heavy metal. There's a band called The Gods and The Stars. The Stars,
Stars are awesome.
Yeah, they don't get enough credit. Talk about a band that nobody talks about. You know?
I wish that if they would have stuck it out just a little bit longer, I really thought they would have been huge.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, glam metal, the 80s glam metal directly came from Stars.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Them and Angel. If those two bands could have stuck it out through the late 70s and the early 80s when kind of rock was like dying in the mainstream, but then all of a sudden exploded, and those bands I thought would have been Stars and Angel, both could have been huge.
Nicky said that Stars was the debut album from Motley Crue was basically a Stars ripoff, is what he said. So
I can see that. You know, it's funny though, because they had a lot of great songs though. When you listen to those Stars records, you're like, wow, they had a bunch of great songs.
Yeah,
they were just like 3 years too early.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love Angel too, but I think Stars had more songs, if you ask me. I mean, if you go through those records, and Angel's another band where it's like the people that are loyal to them are loyal. But I'm telling you, if you go through those,
I'm a huge Angel fan.
Yeah, but if you go through those Stars records, man, there's a lot of great songs. So
wasn't that the brother of Rex Smith who was like a pop idol?
Yeah, dude.
How weird.
There you go.
This is the 2025 reissue, and it's got all the surviving band members signed it, which is really cool.
Crazy.
So yeah, it's got 4 of the 5 guys.
Scott, you are one of the scariest collectors I've ever known, dude. You really, you really do have some insane stuff. Yeah, and believe it or not, back to guys like Rex Smith. There's actually, he has some good songs, man.
Yeah.
I have to admit it. If you get into some of those records, there's another band called Piper, which was Billy Squire's band. They were pretty good too. I mean, it's that's what's kind of cool when you go back into that 70s stuff. There's always little nuggets of certain bands. You know, like we were talking about the Gods, and there was another band called The Boys. The Boys are another band I really dig. You know?
Okay, I'm gonna drop one on you just like that.
Michael Bolton.
Yep, Blackjack, Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton. Playing ripping on guitar.
Wasn't Kulick in that band?
Yeah, Bruce
Kulick was in this band.
That's crazy.
And if you look on the first Aldo Nova, the one with Fantasy on it,
yeah,
look at the rhythm guitar player. It's Michael Bolton.
Get out of town.
Well, I mean, you know, even those pop stars, or you know, like Rex Smith, you know, they had chops. They got it from somewhere. So the gene pool didn't fall too far from there. But anyway,
I agree. Also with Sweet. Sweet was a great glam metal band. So was Slade.
Yeah.
I'd say Sweet and Slade are way underappreciated, especially in the States. I mean,
there you go. Slade right there.
I love that band. That band doesn't get enough credit at all. And they never talk about, you know, inspiring Quiet Riot.
Kiss. I mean, Ace's first costume was a straight up ripoff from Slade.
Yeah,
the spaceman outfit, you know.
Well, and wasn't Quiet Riot? Weren't they the first metal band to have 2 cover songs go to #1 from the same band?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Slick Black Cadillac.
Yeah,
I remember Slick Black Cadillac. I'm really pissed about this one. I used to have the single for Slick Black Cadillac.
Oh man,
I don't have it anymore. That pisses me off. There's always a nugget that slips through your collection where you're like, what the hell did I do with that? You know? But yeah, the Slick Black Cadillac single used to be in my collection. Nuts.
Getting a couple Spooky Tooth ones too. I like Spooky Tooth. I have a few of their albums. I don't have them all, but anyhow. Yeah. Well, hey, we are
I think
we are over our hour
another time because we're out of time. But Katon, you need to come back. In fact,
the problem is when I get with you guys, we nerd out. We just totally go bonkers.
Well, we can do that. We can do that again. I'd like to see you get Nefarious off and rolling, and then come back and give us an update.
I will. I mean, that's gonna for sure happen. I mean, what's great about this band is everybody's really involved. So we're working on a bunch of stuff right now. Like once I even get off this interview, it'll be back to we have a thread chat that we're going back and forth over more ideas, and the next single is going to be dropping it's this month's almost there. We're almost into May, so May there'll be a new single. I believe it's called Master Plan. That's what they're telling me, because there's a few stacked, but Master Plan is supposed to be the next single that we're releasing from Nefarious, and then I'll be doing obviously HIRAX. The record's still getting out there, so I say this. I'm really happy though as a singer, because to have 2 projects going at one time it's awesome, and I'm keeping busy. And I love doing this. I mean, I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't tell you that, man. I love doing this. It's not easy, but it's still something that I love to do.
Still doing your DJ gig too?
No, not as much. I mean, I love that too. You know, it's funny though. Once I had to kind of decide, am I going to focus more on my own music? You know, and that's kind of like even with the record collecting. One of the reasons it wasn't just about, you know, wanting to make sure I pick really good records. I was like, why don't I make some records? You know, and instead of keep buying so many records. Not that that's not fun. I love buying records, but I'm like, you know, it's time for me, especially when I hit 60, I started realizing how much time do I have left to keep doing this shit? So then I'm like, well, I better make some records because I don't want to have any regrets. I think that's one of those things that like you can do something about it. Like I could either not keep putting out some records, and I'm pretty good at it. So why don't I put out some more records? And it's people supporting me too, like just the love that we get. You know, people saying that records either change their lives or it's like they watched a HIRAX DVD with their mother. That's insane to me, you know. So I'm gonna keep doing this shit as long as people keep listening.
Sounds
well,
good.
We appreciate you sticking around for an hour with us, and this won't be the last time. I can assure you, we're gonna have you back and get an update. But you know how we do it here. In fact, Vic Stone, there's another long-term rocker. He says hello, by the way.
Tell him
Vic,
I said, hey Vic, what's up, brother?
Vic from
Really
Vindicator.
Really good dude, really great band. Vindicator's great, and he's still doing it. And I have respect.
He still is, yep.
And they have a killer new T-shirt design out, by the way.
I like this comment. Friends let friends buy Uli.
I want to thank you guys. And real quick, I just wanted to mention this before I go. Which out of you guys, which was the guy that was in the Navy? Hey, much respect, and I want to say thank you for your service, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy for 30 years, so I got mad respect for the Navy. Well, anybody that serves our country, I'm down with. So
absolutely, I agree.
Much respect, and I'm gonna see you guys soon. Let's do this again soon. Like once we get this Nefarious thing up and running, it should be pretty damn soon. We're gonna start playing out, and the record will be done. When the record comes out, I think I'll try to get a hold of you guys, and we can reset something.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a venue in Texas just waiting for you. And
I'm down, dude.
It's not my living room, but you can play my living room if you want. You wouldn't be the first band.
I love Texas, so for sure, let's make that happen. That'd be awesome.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys.
Right on, John. So I'll let you do the outro there, and I'll.
Well, as we always do it, metal
will prevail. Hang around if you got your cans, Katon.